thank you so much for coming to this presentation. I'm just going to take you through a little preamble bit to tell you what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to start that off with a question. How do we get from this to this? And what I'm getting at here is it's clearly about degrees of insight, about levels of insight, levels of understanding of a situation. And I'm using it as an analogy for website building. And specifically, I'm using it as an analogy for the process of working with a client to achieve a very articulate sense of understanding of what it is that they want. And also, an analogy for the understanding that the client themselves go through as they go from, I think I want a website, to it's launched and it's great. So the analogy is pointing to levels of details, levels of articulation, which this shape transition, I think, sums up quite nicely. So the process, ideally, would be smooth, but right off the bat, there are shifts. Of course there are shifts because we're human. And this wavy line is a kind of a symbol I often use to refer to mindsets. The fact that we're not machines, we don't think in straight lines, we think in bumpy kind of shapes. And this is what I'm imagining would be a kind of an ideal harmonic process of interaction between site builders and clients. And site builder, I mean an organization or individual. Client is someone that wants a website. And it would be ideal if, as people shift, the other can follow. Kind of like partner dancing in a way. And my observation from having done a few websites and worked with clients and so on, is that with Drupal, specifically, that's what we're talking about here, there's a point where it kind of starts to diverge. And the client is still thinking in terms of what they thought they were doing. But at the other side, something goes different. And I think, this is my hypothesis, it gets to the point where we have to start implementing. We start thinking about implementing. So what that means is that the concerns that people have as they collaborate together are more or less harmonious until the point of implementation. And specifically around the idea of, well, your website consists of a bunch of pages. Let's start thinking about building those pages out. And then we end up getting into the weeds of making Drupal produce pages. And that takes us away from the mindset of the client. That's my hypothesis, and that's what I'm going to run with today. And what that gets down to, since we're talking about web pages, fundamentally that means information architecture. So the point of my hypothesis is that I believe Drupal doesn't have a systematic way to define and maintain and build and evolve information architecture. It's got a number of ways that you can arrive at it eventually, but it's not systematic. And I believe that causes some problems in terms of the process. I would like it to be like this, where web pages come out of some kind of natural process that clients as human beings can understand, and that the site builder, whoever they may be, can stay in tune with them and get things done at the same time. That's what I'd like.